girls, Coach Neek here. This video is going to be about Lu Xiaojun and the recent doping scandal. Now, if you don't already know, Lu Xiaojun was popped for EPO, that's erythropoietin, which is a performance-enhancing drug that increases the production of red blood cells through the kidneys. Now, the EPO, erythropoietin, is a bioidentical hormone, meaning your body already produces it. It produces it to, like the drug does, increase your red blood cell count. By increasing your red blood cell count, you're essentially increasing your cardiovascular endurance, your recovery, and potentially, this is potentially because there's nothing actually proving this, but anecdotally it does seem to be the case, your muscle strength and size. Saying that, the studies that I've read on EPO don't show any effect on muscle size or strength. Saying that, they mostly measure stuff like muscle protein synthesis whilst using EPO and the control group, and generally there is no change. EPO doesn't inherently increase muscle protein synthesis, which is generally one of the driving factors when it comes to PEDs for muscle growth. But I suspect there's probably some other vector which we're not 100% au fait on, which drives muscle growth. Okay. So that's why I think he's taking it. One, for the endurance factor, because he can train for longer, really work on his technique and that kind of thing, which will help his lifts in general, because obviously Olympic weightlifting is heavily technique-based, not just pure muscle growth. And the more he can go over the technical drives, the better his lifts are going to be. And second, it will increase his strength, or at least anecdotally it will. The other reason why I imagine he's using EPO is, one, because he's planning, there was a competition coming up in Colombia, which is a much higher elevation than China. So there's that's my dog. There's the potential that he's using EPO to prepare his body for the elevated competition, but I'm not sure how much I would put stock in that argument, because the Chinese weightlifting team have a lot of resources, right? They could have just moved their stuff and trained at a higher elevation for literally a month or two, and that would have got their body adapted to training and competing at that altitude. So you wouldn't need EPO for that reason. I have seen that idea kicked about, but I don't think that would be the whole reason. I think personally the reason why he's taking EPO, recombinant EPO, is because the detection time is very minimal. A recent study done on the detection time of microdosed EPO and human growth hormone together, recombinant human growth hormone, showed that the detection time was as little as 24 hours up to 72 hours, which in the scale of PEDs is actually a really, really short time. Your window of testing has to be spot on in order to catch people doping at EPO. There's a reason why EPO is heavily abused in high-level sports. It's because it is hard to detect. And it does give a significant performance-enhancing boost, especially to those who rely on a cardiovascular side of things. And obviously weightlifting doesn't, but not as much, but they still get benefit. So because recombinant EPO has such a short half-life, the testing window, in my opinion, either has to be informed or just luck. And that is the basis of my opinion. I think that he just got unlucky. I think that there isn't like an inside job. I don't think he was put on a pedestal or was used as a scapegoat for the rest of the team. I think he just got unlucky. I'll be very surprised if the rest of the team aren't taking EPO as well as other performance-enhancing drugs. I think he got unlucky. The reason why I think that was because he was projected on social media. He had a meteoric rise to fame. His lists were dazzling people. He was covered all the time, like Greg Doucette, Roger Huon, all those kind of guys. So I don't think they would put him as a sacrificial lamb for people. Be like, oh, look, he was taking PEDs, now don't investigate the rest of us. Look how good we are for catching him or whatever. I think it was all just luck. I don't think it was planned. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I don't think that makes sense. I'd like to hear what you guys think. Do you think it was a conspiracy? What are your thoughts on it? I know there are quite a lot of videos out there covering the ins and outs of the situation. I moreover just wanted to go into the drugs, but I am curious as to what you guys would think. Turning back to EPO, it isn't a good choice of drug for the average gym rat, in my opinion, and it's definitely not one for health. You see a lot of guys who do oxygen restricted training, the masks, to stimulate training at elevated levels. to hyperbaric chambers for the same reason, to stimulate erythropoiesis. So it seems on the outside it'd be a healthy thing to do, but it's not. By increasing your red blood cell count disproportionately to your blood plasma, you will get essentially what is colloquially known as sludge blood, thick blood. And thick blood isn't conducive to longevity. The thicker your blood in relation to your blood plasma, the worse health outcomes you're going to get when it comes to things like stroke, cardiovascular disease, and heart attacks. The thicker your blood, the red blood cells can then start sticking together, forming clumps, which when going through your body will cause strokes and can lead to death. So I caution people against using EPO for a bonus in your cardiovascular endurance and potentially muscle recovery and strength and whatnot. I do not think the payoff is worth it. There is also some evidence out there that it's kidney toxic to some degree, and hammering your kidneys is never a good idea. Unlike the liver, the kidneys aren't going to bounce back after long periods of stress. And that should be a note for people who like abusing Anavar and what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. Boldenone. Again, kidney toxic. And Trenbolone as well. I mean, that's toxic to fucking everything, but even so. So for those of you who are wanting to try and use EPO, be aware of that and get a blood pressure cuff and keep an eye on your blood pressure. There are tons of things you can do to try and keep your blood pressure down through ARBs, ERBs, just through supplements, stuff like fish oil has been shown to give a good direct reduction in your blood pressure. You should be looking at the EPA for that, not so much the DHEA. You can also do, I mean, the obvious one's hydration, right? The more hydrated you are, the less thick your blood's going to be, the lower your blood pressure score is going to be when you actually test. So that's important. And although I do not think my audience are professional athletes and looking to dope and avoid detection, but if you are going to try and use EPO to avoid detection, you need to use recombinant EPO. You can't just use EPO off the shelf. Like, you can't go to www.steroids.com and buy EPO from there. I don't think they would even sell that kind of thing, but you can't buy it off there because if you use it, it's not the same, and you will get caught a lot easier. Detection time with bog standard EPO is a lot higher, kind of off the top of my head, a lot higher than recombinant EPO. So that's an important point to make. Recombinant EPO is going to be a lot more expensive, and I do not know where you can buy that kind of stuff. I do not have contacts who sell that. Recombinant EPO is very expensive, and I would assume the Chinese weightlifting team has a whole ton of resources behind it, which can acquire those kind of substances, as well as other kind of designer drugs to help beat PED testing. These have just been my thoughts. I'd love to know your guys down below. I do write these posts in a written format, which are a lot more precise, and there's a lot less rambling on my Instagram. If you like these kind of posts, just click on the link down there and give me a follow. I'd appreciate it. And again, the posts are a lot less rambly. They're more concise. I'm still learning how to talk long form and structure my thoughts in a way where I can follow some sort of like linear timeline when it comes to my content. I've considered chopping up, pausing it, filming a segment, reading what's next, pausing it, reading what's next, pausing it. But I don't know, there's something a bit more attractive about just one continuous take, off the cuff kind of knowledge, because I think it shows off a little bit more of your understanding of the topic. But anyway, it's a 9-minute video. I think that's all for now. Just a quick reminder, the January cohort for my coaching service the first 5 slots have been taken up. There's 5 more slots which are going to be pulled into like a lucky dip. So if you submit your email to my coaching website on the sign up, you'll be pulled out of a random hat for 5 people who will get my coaching services. My coaching is a limited contact through the app, which I'll send you, or WhatsApp or Instagram, whichever one you prefer, for questions, guidance, that kind of thing. I like to work with clients, so when it comes to training plans, if you have a particular plan which works for you, we can stick with that plan, and I can help you with your supplements and PED use and that kind of thing. But it's all very, personally based. And now I'm about to hit 10 minutes, which is apparently the magic YouTube number. So if you enjoyed watching this, give me a like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, bell button, all that malarkey. But yeah, that's it. Coach Neek out. See ya.